Hey friends, welcome back. Today I thought I would share another insight when we're talking about helping us to discover what is the root cause of weight gain and how to be most effective and efficient at helping to balance your hormones so that you can release weight naturally. And the topic we're going to be discussing is insulin and the importance of knowing whether or not insulin resistance is a factor for your unique body. There's a whole bunch of different reasons that we could be storing weight and not releasing excess fat, but insulin resistance is a common factor pattern that I see many times over with women that we work with all the time. So what is insulin resistance? Well, first, let's just get clear on insulin. Insulin is a hormone that helps to regulate blood sugar levels in the body. So anytime we eat food or have meals, obviously from the foods that we contain, there are certain elements of glucose that get absorbed into the bloodstream. And when our blood sugar level raises, it signals to the pancreas to create this hormone insulin and to release that, because insulin actually works as the escort. Okay, insulin takes blood sugar and escorts it into the inside of our cells through the cell receptors so that your cells can use it to create energy, to create ATP, and to use it for fuel. So insulin itself is a very necessary, useful hormone. It's used as that escort. But what happens in the case of insulin resistance is that chronically elevated levels of blood glucose levels or blood sugar levels that have been high and that are high for a period of time, it's almost like the cells, the receptors, I think of them as little windows that open up and open up the cell receptor to let the insulin carry in the blood sugar for fuel. If there is a perpetual amount of sugar, glucose around, it's like those windows shut. Those cell receptors say, "No more. We see enough of this. We have too much. We don't want to have any more blood sugar come in." So it's like they close their windows so that cell receptor is no longer taking in insulin, and that's what's called insulin resistance. When the body is not responding to insulin and bringing that sugar for fuel inside the internal part of the cell. Ironically, what happens then is oftentimes we feel fatigued, we feel depleted because our cells don't have the energy source, the fuel source that they need to work well and to be energized and to be optimal functioning, because those windows have been shut. That insulin resistance is keeping the sugar out. And unfortunately, when that happens, this dynamic becomes a very perpetual cycle for women to start to store fat. When we have excess blood glucose floating around because the insulin can't escort it inside our cells, blood glucose in and of itself can become toxic and inflammatory for all of the tissues in our body. So our body wants to protect us, and so it takes that extra glucose and packages it up into a fat cell and it kind of stores it for future fuel sources. And that's how we start to have this buildup of sugar in our blood supply because the insulin can't carry it inside the cells. So we may feel fatigued, we may have low energy, but that extra glucose is just getting stored as fat. And then the weight gain, hence the weight gain, right? So what do we do about that? We want to find out if insulin resistance is one of the drivers of your weight gain. And unfortunately, most physicians will look at either fasting glucose numbers when you look at lab work, or they'll look at hemoglobin A1C. Unfortunately, fasting glucose isn't a very useful marker because it's just simply a really quick snapshot in time. It doesn't tell us a trend or pattern of chronically elevated blood sugar levels that impact insulin sensitivity. And if you just have a stressful commute to the blood draw, or you're rushed in the morning before you went to go take the test, that can spike cortisol levels, which can really skew the reading of our fasting glucose number. The other marker that is often used as the more common test for insulin resistance is hemoglobin A1C. And what this is testing is actually testing the hemoglobin, the oxygen carrying part of our red blood cells, which is more beneficial to get a fuller picture of our blood glucose because typically our red blood cells are alive for 3 to 4 months. So it kind of gives us a longer snapshot of window of time. However, it's still looking at the downstream. It doesn't tell us about the insulin sensitivity or responsiveness at the cell. So it's still kind of a delayed indicator. And many times when we see hemoglobin A1C anything over 5.3, for example, that's already signs of insulin resistance. And 5.7 or above is pre-diabetic. So the optimal marker that we want to look at is actually fasting insulin. And fasting insulin levels around, typically there's a consensus, there's a little bit of a debate, but typically around 5 IUs per liter is what is in a healthy optimal range. Definitely not at that far end, that higher end of the typical reference range. So one thing for you to be thinking of with your healthcare provider is asking for fasting insulin as a better indication of true sensitivity of your insulin health and balance. And we're going to be talking about what are some steps, what are some things that you can do to help support if you do, in fact, find out that insulin resistance is a factor contributing to your weight gain. Well, first, sleep is absolutely vital. Sleep is a really powerful signaling and a reset for our body. And whenever people have interrupted or, suboptimal sleep, it can absolutely decrease the sensitivity of insulin in the body. So getting and prioritizing that kind of winding down routine, allowing yourself to get to bed at a reasonable time and turn off the screen so that your body can fully restore into a regular sleep pattern is going to be an important behavioral, just a practice that you embody and that you prioritize. Another mineral that's super important for insulin sensitivity is magnesium, right? And majority of Americans unfortunately have suboptimal levels of magnesium. And magnesium is one of those minerals that helps to regulate and to balance our insulin sensitivity. It also helps to store and regulate blood glucose levels. So that's a really important tip. And finally, I want to share with you a phytonutrient called berberine. Berberine is an herbal supplement that some women can choose to take that can be really supportive of insulin resistance or insulin sensitivity, because this has been found in peer-reviewed scientific studies to work equally, if not better, than metformin, which is a prescription medication that's often used for patients who are diabetic. And berberine is like I said, it's an alkaloid, it's a phytonutrient, it is something that has antimicrobial properties, so it also can be used to help fight bacteria and parasites and other infections. And it has also been found to help reduce triglycerides and LDL cholesterol levels. So berberine can be a really powerhouse supplement for some women, depending on your unique body. And I want to just share these tools, share these resources for you to, I guess the key takeaway is to really understand your body and understand the root causes of your weight gain. If it's something that you're experiencing, step number one is to get clear on the information. Find out if insulin resistance is a block for you. If it's preventing that blood glucose to be used for fuel, then your body will continue to store that fat. And until we can fix that dynamic, you're fighting an uphill battle. Step number two is to take my free hormone health kit assessment. If you're wondering if some of the symptoms are tied to insulin resistance, we actually have a section where we talk about insulin. So feel free to download it here. And as always, we can definitely help support you if this is something you're looking for more resources or more tools around. Thanks and have a great day.